Welcome to Israel Vision News Review. The news today is reading like the book of Revelation. We are experiencing shortages in rice and bread. We're talking about droughts and wars and rumors of wars all of the time. And the world politicians are calling for peace, peace, and there is no peace. Stay tuned for our comments and prayer points.
This is IBA News coming to you from Jerusalem. Good evening. 7 Palestinians were killed and 6 wounded in an IDF attack on a home in Beit Hanun in the Gaza Strip. Palestinians say among the dead were a mother and her 4 small children. IBA's Eli Wargelenter brings us the details.
An Israeli tank shell slammed into a Gaza Strip home today, killing a Palestinian woman and 4 of her children, according to Palestinian sources. All of the children were under the age of 6. A 17-year-old Palestinian civilian who was passing by the house was killed in the explosion, medical workers said. One Islamic Jihad terrorist was also killed in the fighting in Beit Hanun. The IDF is looking into the incident, but has yet to obtain a full picture of what happened. Military sources say that a group of gunmen was spotted shortly after 8 a.m. near Givati forces operating in the area. An aircraft fired at the gunmen and hit them, while tanks fired shells toward the area. During the exchange, an IDF soldier was lightly injured in the leg and rushed to the hospital. Said one source, the area where the fighting is taking place is very crowded. The terror organizations are knowingly operating near civilians and putting them in danger. One of the scenarios the army is looking into is whether the family members were killed as a result of an explosion of weapons that were on the gunmen's bodies. Hamas terrorists claim to have fired rockets at Israel before the Beit Hanun house was hit. The deaths in Gaza cast another shadow on Egyptian efforts to forge a ceasefire between Israel and the terrorist groups. This aggression does not serve efforts being exerted to achieve calm, and it obstructs the peace process, Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas said in a statement. Ismail Haniyeh, Prime Minister of Gaza, accused Israel of striving to ruin any regional and international efforts to end the siege and halt aggression. Earlier today, the IDF listed its closure of Palestinian territories imposed for 10 days over the Passover holiday. Eli Wargelenter, IBA News.
And a short time ago, the Prime Minister's spokesman had this to say about this morning's incident in Gaza.
We are currently investigating this morning's tragic incident. Hamas operates in civilian neighborhoods. And when we have combat situations between the Israeli Defense Forces and Hamas terrorists, we make every effort to prevent innocent civilians getting caught up in the crossfire.
Well, retaliation for the incident was not slow in coming. A Qassam rocket struck next to a school. Another scored a direct hit on a house as a total of 9 rockets landed in Sderot today. 4 rockets launched simultaneously from northern Gaza landed in the Negev town shortly after 11 o'clock this morning. No one was physically injured, but Magen David Adom paramedics treated a number of people for shock following the strikes. Hamas claimed responsibility for today's rocket fire, claiming it was in response to the army strike in Gaza. Well, it came a few days late, but it was an impressive achievement nonetheless. Israel has successfully launched the Amos 3 communication satellite from Kazakhstan. IBA's Dennis Zinn has the details.
This morning, exactly 4 days after schedule, Israel's most advanced communication satellite, Amos 3, was put into orbit. It's due to become fully operative within days. The rocket which ferried the satellite was successfully launched from Bakanur in Kazakhstan. The delay last week was called just minutes before blastoff and was caused by a faulty support arm, which the operator said was not properly separating from its cargo. There was no problem during the launch today. By evening, Amos 3 will take its position alongside its predecessors, Amos 1 and 2, some 36,000 kilometers above the equator. Amos 1 is scheduled to be pulled from service within the coming months. This new state-of-the-art satellite was designed and built by the Mabat division of Israel Aircraft Industries at a cost of $170 million. Some 100 engineers were involved in the development. will provide high-quality digital, television, radio and internet transponding services, which are utilized commercially worldwide and has an operating life of 18 years. The Amos 3 project was adopted by the 60th anniversary celebrations of the state, and the satellite carried into space the logo of the festivities, boldly printed on its side. Dennis Zinn, IBA News.
Everything looks much calmer from high above the earth. Well, as the price of food rises dramatically worldwide, Israel is starting to feel the effects of what some observers are calling a quiet tsunami ready to strike. IBA's Leah Stern has the story.
Rice, a staple in countries around the world and here in Israel, is becoming harder and harder to find on supermarket shelves in the country. Consumers trying to buy rice last week were amazed to find signs limiting purchases to 2 kilograms of rice per customer. The rations were enacted due to a worldwide shortage of rice and overall hike in food prices, which is hitting Israeli consumers in their pockets, with rice prices rising between 33% and 65%. The price of bread has already gone up and is expected to rise even further. The price increases will have a serious impact on the country's poor. According to agricultural and financial experts, there is no way the government could avert the price crisis. Major food manufacturer Sugat imports 70% of Israel's rice from countries like Thailand, India, and other Southeast Asian countries. Here at home, the price of products based on wheat and corn, as well as cooking oils, are expected to rise by up to 20%. Coffee prices will go up 5% and meat 40%. The big question now is, what will the government do to help the disadvantaged cope with the situation? Welfare and Social Services Minister Isaac Herzog says that he will take action and do everything in his power to make sure that government allowances for the needy will be updated more frequently to try to keep up with the soaring cost of food. This is Leah Stern for IBA News.
Well, 10 North Koreans were killed when Israel launched its airstrike last year to destroy Syria's nuclear reactor. This according to Japanese TV, which quotes South Korean intelligence sources as saying those killed included government officials, soldiers and engineers. Some of the dead were reported to be members of the elite military production bureau, which works directly under the command of North Korean Supreme Leader Kim Jong-lee. The Japanese report says the bodies of the dead were cremated and their ashes were sent home. A few North Koreans reportedly survived the attack, but their whereabouts are unknown. Last week, the U.S. accused Syria of building a secret nuclear reactor with North Korea's help. The U.S. also reported that the Israeli Air Force destroyed that facility. And joining me now in the studio to discuss the latest peace moves with Syria is Professor of Middle Eastern and Islamic History, generally considered Israel's foremost expert on Syria, Moshe Maoz. Professor Maoz, thank you so much for being our guest today.
Thanks for the compliments.
Well, the big question, and we're hoping that you can answer it, is Syria serious about the peace moves which appear to be gaining momentum?
I think so, provided, of course, they want the Golan back, they want some influence in Lebanon, they want financial help from the United States to develop the economy. Bashar wants survival. For this, they're willing to give peace.
Now, President Assad is generally considered to be a weak leader. Is he strong enough to carry through this move if indeed it does work out?
Yes, I think it was on record, even in the Syrian parliament, in the press, that he wants peace with Israel. Also, he wants open negotiations, not secret negotiations, which means that he's serious about it. And he takes a great deal of risk because of his alliance with Iran and so on and so forth. But I think it's not the first time, incidentally. Since he came to power in 2000, he was saying periodically to Israel, offering to Israel to negotiate peace.
Is he then a stronger leader than he's generally given credit for being?
Initially, I mean, he's not very strong and he's not very, how can I say, sharp as his father was. But 7 years in Syria, is now 7 years, it's a record time for him. And he manages, and it's not only his own idea of peace, it's the interest of Syria.
And you believe that his wife is a strong political ally of his as well?
Yes, this is, I think, his best decision. To marry his wife. She's not only beautiful, she's also clever, and she consults with him, and maybe for the benefit of the Syrian people.
Okay, I like that. And tell me this, Professor Maoz, is Israel serious about the peace moves with Syria?
There are so many Israels. I mean,
let's talk about the Prime Minister.
Syria is only one voice. Israel, there are so many voices. The Prime Minister I doubt it very much, because
Really?
it looks like a spin. He talks, but is he going to implement it? I doubt it. A, because the United States, or I would say Bush, is against it on record, so he has to wait until Bush goes, and it's a long time. B, does he have the support of the Knesset, his own party, the public? I doubt it. He has to be a leader in order to implement it. He's not. He's a politician. And this is the difference between the statesman and the politician. I hope I'm wrong.
Okay. Let me ask you this. Assuming that indeed something does come out of these talks, losing the Golan Heights is a huge risk, is it not?
No.
For Israel, you think not?
No, it's a risk, because you say, I like the wine of the Golan. I like to travel there. But for peace, I think it's worth doing it, because we still are captive of old ideas of the Syrians shooting from the Golan Heights.
It happened. It could happen again.
That's right. But A, demilitarization, and they are willing to do it. Supervision, common interests, including water, and also the balance of power between Israel and Syria is 100 times in favor of Israel. So there is the will. And peace is the best security. It's a slogan, but it's true.
Okay. And I think it was Meir Shitrit, cabinet minister, who suggested that Syria lease us the Golan Heights for 20 or 25 years. Do you think that's something that perhaps the Knesset could, and the Israeli public could swallow?
I heard 99 years, but the Syrians are not going to swallow it. I was working with Rabin at the time, and there was a suggestion by Rabin to the Syrians. They said no. Because, their precedent, their model is Egypt.
Right.
Sinai.
Every grain of sand.
Yeah, why should they be less Arab than they are more Arab than the Arabs or than the Egyptians? So they're not going to do it.
Okay.
And I think it can be done in phases, gradually.
Okay. Professor Moshe Maoz, thank you so much for
you.
sharing your insight with us. Thank you. Well, in other news today, the military's F-16I fighter jets today resumed operational activity. The move came several weeks after the planes were grounded following the discovery of carcinogenic materials in the cockpits of 7 of the aircraft. The IDF spokesman's office said the Storm Squadron, grounded in mid-March, has now returned to full service. The entire squadron was grounded after a routine inspection detected the presence of formaldehyde, which is known to be carcinogenic, in high concentrations. The Air Force had received complaints from several pilots who reported a strong chemical odor in their aircraft. The IAF, together with the plane manufacturer Lockheed Martin, will continue tests on the 7 planes where extremely low levels of the cancerous substance were eventually discovered. Well, the current rise in food prices will have a devastating effect on the country's poor. This according to agricultural economist Professor Yakir Plesner of the Hebrew University. He was speaking by telephone to IBA's Leah Stern.
People who are going to be really hit by this are those who live on $1 or $2 a day and cannot afford this more expensive food.
Rice up 33 to 65%, coffee up 5%, meat up 40%. Where are we going with this?
Well, it might climb a bit more. And as far as I can see, it'll take a few years before a climb down begins.
What is causing these price hikes?
With wheat, there is a prolonged drought in Australia, which is a major producer of wheat, and the product has been meager coming out of there. With rice, it's because of an increased demand for rice in China and India, both of whom produce together more than half of all the rice production in the world, and now they eat more of it, so less is reaching the international markets.
Well, considering the rising food prices at the supermarket, it may be time to look for an alternative. Imagine that instead of buying your fresh vegetables at the market, you simply pick them from your home or neighborhood garden. A branch of the National Service called Gar'in Dvash, or Honey Unit, is helping people create community gardens in 12 neighborhoods around Jerusalem. The gardens are managed with the support of the municipality, community centers, and the Society for the Protection of Nature. Group activists say the goal is not only to save money, but to promote an ecological way of life based on creating an alternative to the wasteful consumption typical of Western societies, Israel included.
We want to make it special this year. Like, we take every part of this area around here and we do it like it's part of a house, because we want people to know how they can live a green life and about all the alternatives. And so we take like this part, as you see, it's like a dressing closet that you can see here, like different styles of things, like not using new things, not buying alternatives that you can find. Like this is a free market that everybody that doesn't want their clothes, they bring it here, and if you want clothes you can take it freely and you can bring some. And there's other things all over the place, like how to make soaps and how to grow your food. And
what is your message to the people?
My message to the people? I don't know, do what you love, and don't forget that we're part of a very big system, a very big thing. That don't think only about what is now, just look and see that you're part of so many things that are happening, and whatever you do with your life, it affects on other people. And if you do what you love and you do it for the earth, then other people will like to do that too.
Anybody can make compost in their house. It's a very simple process. You need to have vegetable scraps. You need to have something that's dry, like leaves or nasoret, sawdust. You need to have air, and you need to have water. And you need to mix it every once in a while in order to make sure that all the parts of the compost are going through the process. The bacteria that eat the organic waste products are eating all of the organic waste products. With the compost that's made, you can fertilize your plants, and it's a slow release process which allows the plants to truly benefit from the compost. It holds water in the soil so that you can also water your plants less, so you're also saving water. And it also protects the soil against other pathogenic bacteria, things like nematodes or other disease-causing agents in the soil. So it has a lot of benefits, compost.
On to political news, or is it? Blistering criticism of the Justice Ministry and the police today from Israel Beitenu leader, former cabinet minister Avigdor Lieberman. At a hastily arranged press conference in Tel Aviv, Lieberman charged that he has been a serial suspect and favorite target for criminal investigation since 1996. Lieberman charged that all the investigations against him were carried out in violation of the rules and using threats and blackmail. He said, quote, 10 years is enough time to serve an indictment. If they don't do that, they should close the case. Lieberman claimed he was the victim of political persecution, saying that he had heard one of the investigators say that the police wanted to arrest him so that he would not be eligible for the premiership. Internal Security Minister Avi Dichter said in response he stands behind the police investigation, which he is certain is being conducted in a professional manner. If Knesset member Lieberman has any concrete complaints, said Dichter, I'm sure he knows where to direct them. And now I'm joined by Jerusalem Post political affairs correspondent Gil Hoffman. Great to see you again, Gil. So what exactly is Lieberman up to, do you think?
Lieberman wants to make sure that ahead of the next election, he's all clear. Whether he wants to run alone or whether he would run together with the Likud under Netanyahu. It could be that in the next election, cleanliness of a politician could be one of the issues that becomes a central issue, and because of that, he thinks he is clean. He has to tell the people of Israel that he's clean, and he needs the police to clear him for that.
Okay, let's stay with criminal affairs and politics as well, and we'll go on to Knesset member from Shas, Ben Izri, who was yesterday sentenced to a year and a half in jail. Now, of course, he's not the only one. We understand that 7 Shas Knesset members have been convicted of criminal charges, mostly to do with corruption. What's going on in that party?
They have a serious problem with cleanliness in Shas, and Ben Izri is just the latest symptom, and they really do have to clear up their act. They didn't want to include Ben Izri on the list to this Knesset. They did it as a favor to him, and they have a long way to go.
Okay. All right, let's stay with politics. Prime Minister Olmert has been riding high on news of the Israeli attack of the nuclear facility and so on, but Defense Minister Labour leader Ehud Barak isn't too pleased about this, correct? How serious is the rivalry between them?
There's a big fight between Olmert and Ehud Barak over votes from the center left, and so one of the things that they both are trying to do is to show that they are the ones that are restoring the security to the people of Israel. And that's why you saw Ehud Olmert claiming credit for what happened in Syria in September, and Ehud Barak also wants to make sure that he gets credit for that, and that battle is probably going to be continuing on until Election Day.
Exactly, and Olmert is even overtaking Barak on the left and going ahead with talks with Syria, something that Barak, of course, was unable to conclude during his term as Prime Minister. So that narrows Barak's sphere of influence even more, does it not?
That hits Barak hard, because Ehud Barak intended to differentiate himself on that Syrian issue. He knows that on the Palestinian issue, he's not as far to the left as Ehud Olmert is, and so he intended to run on that Syrian issue against Olmert, who in the past had said he would never give up the Golan, and now that issue was taken away from Barak as well.
Okay. Olmert may have some coalition issues coming up because, as you know, and I believe you're one of the first to report, Moshe Sharoni of the Pensioners Party now claims that 3 members of that party are ready to defect. So, very quickly, how serious is that threat to the coalition?
This is very serious, Leah. This government that had committed itself to dividing the land of Israel is becoming divided itself.
Right.
3 members of Knesset apparently have left today from a coalition of 67 down to 64. That 64 includes people like Marina Solodkin, Zev Elkin, Shali Yachimovich, that no one can rely on, and the member of Knesset from Shas that we don't even know who he is.
Next Knesset session should be even more interesting than the last one. Gil Hoffman, thank you so much as always. Well, in other local news today, Greek Orthodox pilgrims flocked to the West Bank town of Bethlehem today for their Easter Mass. Pilgrims lit candles at the Church of the Nativity, where Christians believe Jesus was born. The Orthodox Christians, who follow a different calendar from other denominations, began their Easter festival on Friday, and it culminates 3 days later when Christians believe Jesus rose from the dead, 3 days after being crucified. And now bring out the Guinness Book of World Records. The world's largest flag was unveiled in Jerusalem as part of celebrations for Israel's 60th anniversary coming up next week. Dozens of students were called in to unfurl the massive Israeli flag on open ground close to the city's entrance. The flag measures 659 meters long, 100 meters wide, and weighs over 5 tons. The flag was produced last year by a Filipino evangelical Christian organization and is being displayed around the country in connection with the Independence Day celebrations. Money matters now. The Tel Aviv Stock Exchange drifted lower in late afternoon trading and the dollar lost ground against the shekel. Here are the numbers. And our IBA forecast is for cooler weather tomorrow with temperatures lower than usual for this time of year. There's even a chance of light local rain showers. Here are the highs and lows. That's all the time we have for today. We won't be on Channel 1 tomorrow due to sports coverage, but we will be on Channel 33 at our usual time of 5 o'clock. I hope you'll join us then when Yochanan Elron will be here with all the latest news from Israel. Until then, thanks for watching. Shalom from Jerusalem.
Shalom from Jerusalem. There is no question about it. It is hard times. They're here in Israel and they're out there where you are as well. My mother was a girl during the Great Depression in the 1930s, and because her father was a successful dairy and wheat farmer, she never knew that there was such a thing called the Great Depression. Now that is what I call protection. But today, people are rioting in Egypt because there is no bread. And the prices here in Israel are to rise by 80% this week. Israel is considering sowing larger fields of wheat in the Negev and looking for other ways to increase production. The Psalm of David tells us, "I have been young and now am old, yet I have not seen the righteous forsaken, nor their descendants begging bread." Now there's comfort in that. Water experts in Israel are telling us that an unprecedented drought is possible by July. when the Sea of Galilee is expected to reach the Black Line. And at this stage, pumping is impossible, and that means we will be a nation without water. There is a large push on now for Syrian talks with Israel. Of course, Syria is demanding that the Golan be returned all the way down to the border of the Sea of Galilee. This is a great controversy, as you can imagine, and the people on the Golan are feeling insecure. Today is the 1,000th day since Jews were taken out of Gaza. Their synagogues, homes, farms, entire communities were randomly ripped apart and destroyed. And the desire was to further the good of the people in Gaza. Will this tragic history repeat itself, and we have aided and abetted the terrorists? The European Union has finally conceded that Hamas is culpable in the inability of Israel to deliver fuel into the Gaza Strip. Also, the United States is pushing Israel to accept a temporary ceasefire with Hamas. And I'm giving you a quote. "There is a push to wrap up the deal with Bush's visit," said a top defense official here. "The hope is that quiet in Gaza will enable Israel and the Palestinians to focus on reaching a peace deal by the end of this year." But Hamas chief Mashal said to Al Jazeera television in Damascus, now I want you to pay attention to his quote, "This temporary peace is a tactic in conducting the struggle. It is normal for any resistance that operates in its people's interest to sometimes escalate, other times retreat a bit. The battle is on. The battle is on to run this way, and Hamas is known for it." Now, does that sound like a peace deal to you? I dare not say they are riding on the back of the poor people and will continue to do so. They are also fighting a very clever worldwide propaganda war against Israel, and the gullible among the nations believe them. During Passover, hackers from North Africa have closed down the website of the Bank of Israel, leaving their hate slogans as a signature. Hezbollah in Lebanon is currently expanding its fighting capability. Thousands of young men are being sent to training camps in Lebanon, Syria, and Iran to prepare for war with Israel. They are very proud of these announcements. Let us also note that Israel has taken the United Nations peacekeeping force inside of Lebanon to task for not reporting the buildup of arms and the free movement of military vehicles inside of Lebanon. Now it's time to pray. Please join us. First of all, I want to say thank you to the only people standing with the nation of Israel other than the Jews. You who believe in the Bible, and you who are vocal and supportive, not only with your prayers, but also with your giving. Thank you for standing with us at this time in history. I also want to note that it was Filipino Christians that prepared the largest flag on earth to commemorate Israel's 60th birthday, which is coming up, and they have made the Guinness World Book of Records. Number one prayer point, pray for the Lord God of Israel to make a difference right here in our own parliament. Number two, pray for Israel to become the bread box of the world. We are called to feed the nations. Scientists are working on how to increase the wheat yield. Number three, pray for Israel to pull back from her political folly and return to the Lord in repentance and humbleness. Pray for our enemies with murderous intent to be dealt with. We do not want another war. Also, I want to say that since the news was broadcast concerning Israel killing a mother and 4 children, it has been investigated and proven that it was the terrorists with the loaded with explosive belts that actually were responsible for exploding that small 2-roomed little apartment. Also, pray for yourselves and other viewers of this program. Tell your friends. Please stand up and speak out on Israel's behalf. You can make a difference, and yes, we would love to receive your comments. Finally, please pray for the peace of Jerusalem. They shall prosper who love her. Jerusalem's peace will be our peace. And I leave you with this promise concerning Israel. For the Lord your God is bringing you to a good land, a land with streams of water, of springs and underground water coming forth in valleys and mountains, and we're so desperate for water. A land of wheat, barley, grapes, figs, pomegranates, a land of olive oil and honey, a land of plenty. And as we're blessed, may the entire earth be blessed. And that's it for today. Shalom.